How's it going, everyone? It's Noir Tapes back with another video. Today I wanted to discuss the iconic lo-fi sound and how to achieve it. I get a mixed batch of producers who are following my channel. Some more advanced, some very beginner. I think it's important that I cover this topic just because you never know who's watching it. And you know, sometimes the more advanced producers need to go back and look at the basics at some point just to get a refresh, you know. It's definitely important that I cover this. I have this sample here. It's probably just a Rhodes. I really don't know what exactly it is, but it's very lo-fi. It's already got some lo-fi effect on it, I think, but it's not lo-fi enough for me yet, and I definitely can show you how to achieve that lo-fi sound by adjusting the sample rate on it. So this is the sample by itself. I've just got it on 16 levels here just for the tuning. Because it sounds cool to do this, right? And so the first thing I do is I go into the effects here, and on my program I have Air Lo-Fi. This is one of my favorite plugins on the MPC. It definitely helps achieve that lo-fi aesthetic, but you can check out any lo-fi plugin and it should have the ability to adjust the sample rate of the sound. I'll link the plugin reviews playlist I have up here. I've reviewed a bunch of free lo-fi plugins as well, so if you're missing a lo-fi plugin, definitely check that out. Tape My Lo-Fi is really good for it. And Cymatics Origin, which I thought I had done a review on in one of my previous videos, but I haven't, so I'll have to do one because it's free. But anyways, so we got the basic sound loaded up. I've turned on the lo-fi plugin, and all I'm looking to adjust is the sample rate. The bit depth is also important. If you're trying to emulate old samplers, you can adjust the bit depth to match what the bit depth was of the actual sampler. But honestly, the bit depth doesn't change a lot unless you drastically bring it down, because 8-bit will emulate 8-bit sounds from video games, right? Old video games. But 12-bit is often the ballpark for old samplers, so I'll just put it at 12-bit. But the sample rate is the important part. When you start adjusting the sample rate, you'll notice the difference in the sound pretty instantly. On the lo-fi plugin, it starts at 50k. That's pretty standard. Normally, new songs come out in a higher sample rate, but honestly, above 50k, you won't notice the difference between the sample rates. So I'm just going to play it now. This is just basic. It should sound the exact same, aside from the fact I put it in 12-bit, but you won't notice the difference there. And so that was at 50k hertz. So I'm going to put it to 40. So at 40 kilohertz, you should notice a tiny difference. Nothing crazy. It's when it starts to get below 40 that it's really noticeable, but you should be able to notice this sound anyways. So I'll play it for you now. So I put it down to 30 now so you can hear that. Sounding pretty good. It actually sounds less harsh than the 40, but it's starting to get that ringing sound. It often goes from like a pixelated sound to a ringing, and then we'll go back to pixelated and then pretty destructive. So I'm gonna put it at 20 now. Very obvious difference there, starting to sound a bit harsh. This is kind of where the lo-fi sound comes from. You often can over adjust it and then use an EQ just to carve out a bit of that roughness if it's too harsh. There's different levels, and I'm going to cover that in a minute. Let's do 10k. Very noticeable difference there. It's getting very harsh. Put it to the lowest it can go. I think it's 500 kilohertz, and it's probably going to be unrecognizable at that point. Yeah, so you never go that low. That's like ridiculously low. Normally when I set it, I like to set it around 12, 16, 22, and up in the 30s somewhere. It just depends on the type of vibe I'm going for and how harshly I want to affect the sound. I'll play it for those now. So this is at 12k. It adds a nice ringing and pixely feel to it. It's starting to really degrade, but not too unrecognizably. It sounds quite nice. Very lo-fi. I'll put it to 16. It almost adds like a chime to the sound. You have to keep in mind that the way the sound's colored, it depends on the actual sound itself. This Rhodes is like very lo-fi. It just contributes to the sound, so that's why it sounds so good at all these different sample rates. Anyways, I'll do 22. '22 is probably my favorite. It's like a little destructive, but not too bad, and it gives it that nice coloring. It sounds very lo-fi. It's probably my favorite one out of all of them. And then I'll do maybe 30 or 33 or something. So this is at 33. Much more subtle than the other ones. Adds a little bit of ringing. It's a bit more unnoticeable compared to the other ones. But anyways, just to sum it up, the easiest way to achieve the lo-fi sound is to reduce the sample rate. That's the easiest way. It starts to add that coloring and flavor. Other ways to do it is restricting frequencies using an EQ, because that lends to older sounds. They didn't take up as many frequencies as they do today, so restricting those frequencies is a good way to emulate old sound. Reducing the sample rate is good for lo-fi, and if you reduce the sample rate and bit depth, you can mimic old samplers to try to achieve their sounds. Keep in mind that this is a digital recreation, so it won't be perfect, but you know, it's better than nothing for sure, and it does sound pretty close. So if you're trying to emulate the sound of like an MPC 2000, you can just Google MPC 2000 XL, bit depth, and sample rate. Go through the websites and just read the specifications of the MPC 2000 XL, and then you see what bit depth it had and what sample rate, and you just plug it into a lo-fi plugin, and boom, you'll have sounds that sound like they're coming out of an MPC 2000 XL. Anyways, thank you for watching. If you want more tutorials, tell me down in the comments. I'm happy to do them. I love teaching everyone, and I'm learning myself in the process all the time anyways, so it's one of my favorite things to do. Thank you for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.